Now to the union recruitment scheme that left workers more than $1 million out of pocket. When recruiting outfit Work Partners emerged 2 years ago, it was trumpeted by many trade unionists as an innovative remedy to halt dwindling membership rates. But the Melbourne-based firm is now in the hands of liquidators, who are sorting through a long pile of unpaid invoices and unhappy creditors. Tim Palmer investigates.
This is the man who was driving what some unions thought was a revolution in recruiting members.
Just cap off what are the key benefits of being in the union, the sorts of benefits that we've...
Stuart McGill's company, Work Partners, was contracted by a dozen or so Australian unions desperate for new members, and for a while it delivered great results. The Australian Education Union Victorian branch, led by its secretary Brian Henderson, was one of those excited at suddenly being able to sign as many as 20 new members a day.
Okay, so what we're looking at doing is rewriting the Membership Matters book.
Now the whole Work Partners enterprise has collapsed, owing millions, more than $1 million of that owed to hundreds of workers across Australia in unpaid wages, superannuation and allowances.
So many people. This company is supposed to be representing the unions or representing the ideals of the unions, but they're screwing their own people.
I believe out of the 700 people, none of them got actually they super paid. I believe the last 4 or 5 weeks, about 60 or 70 people weren't paid actually their wages.
I hope they paid her.
Tris Regagu and Tony Suskind are just two of the workers on a very long list who believed in the Work Partners model and are now left high and dry. They thought selling other workers protection through union membership was a good product.
That's the irony, Tim. We were out there promoting what the union actually does for the workers and how the union protects workers. And the same thing we were actually promoting and advocating for were actually happening to us, or to all the workers.
The Work Partners model worked like this. Its sales staff would contact non-union staff, then sell union membership with a tightly rehearsed script that pushed benefits like shopping discounts or health fund coverage. Once they had a signature, Work Partners would start getting paid straight away.
Look, we're a professional services firm and we charge a fee for our service just like lawyers do, or just like accountants do, or just like anybody else does.
So, say a TAFE teacher was signed up for the Australian Education Union, the union would have to give Work Partners the whole first-year fees of something more than $500 within 3 months. But then, earlier this year, Work Partners staff found they weren't getting what they were entitled to. Super payments hadn't been made, in some cases for years. Commissions and allowances were underdone. By the time Work Partners folded, current staff were owed weeks in wages too. Work Partners' former employees say the client unions knew exactly how bad the situation was getting at the company they'd contracted to do their recruiting.
The attitude basically was, as long as we've got new members, basically we don't care how the company treats its staff. That was the attitude.
They like to say, we're the union, we look after our people, but we don't care about anybody else. As long as we get sign-ups, we're happy. And that's the bottom line.
And the liquidator pointed out that the unions shared the blame for workers losing their entitlements. In his first report, the liquidator wrote,
"The company's clients are trade unions who owe the company substantial amounts of money. Whilst it might be simplistic to draw the following conclusion, if the amounts which were due and payable by these clients, as at the date of my appointment, had been paid on time, the amounts owing to employees for unpaid wages would have been significantly reduced."
According to the liquidator's report, Work Partners' major client, the Victorian branch of the Australian Education Union, or AEU, led the way in not paying on time. The report says it owed $117,000 at the time the liquidators came in, $86,000 of that overdue by 3 months. Initially, the AEU refused to comment, saying only the ACTU could answer questions about its relationship with work partners. But later, the AEU did comment to dismiss the liquidator's statement. The union says it was never in arrears in its payment to work partners, and the liquidators simply didn't understand the invoicing procedures used at the time.
If those statements have been made by the liquidator, I mean, they're matters for the liquidator. All I can say is that when the issues around unpaid entitlements and the whole question of the liquidation of work partners came to light, the ACTU coordinated each of the client unions, and each of the client unions undertook and has actually implemented payment of their entitlements, their obligations in full.
It doesn't sit neatly with the idea that a union is about promoting employee welfare, that there seems to be, in this case, hundreds of employees who are not going to get their full entitlements, and particularly in terms of their superannuation entitlements.
The ABC understands the liquidator is examining disputes about the figures on work partners' debtors' ledger. There are other issues for the unions, including whether they were diligent in first signing up with Stuart McGill. An investigation of his earlier business dealings might have revealed that the charity fundraising company Good Cause that he set up some years ago also fell into liquidation, with a $500,000 debt to the tax office and smaller amounts owed in unpaid employee entitlements. Stuart McGill could not be contacted by 7:30 to respond to this story. But even before the liquidator could begin the process of establishing who was owed what in the fallout from the collapse of work partners, Stuart McGill and two other key staff members from the failed company were busy setting up new businesses in a series of moves that raised questions about the union movement's continued involvement with those new enterprises. The company name behind Work Partners was registered as Unions National. Its sole director, Stuart McGill, its clients, the unions, particularly the AEU, and charities like Child Fund Australia. Unions National was already deep in financial trouble when on the 18th of October, Stuart McGill registered a new company called Benefits Team Operations Proprietary Limited. He was again the sole director. On the same day, another company was registered with ASIC, Benefits Team Management. Its directors were Kate McLennan, Stuart McGill's personal assistant at Work Partners, and Susan Hoyles, the general manager of Work Partners. A few days later, another company was registered called Fundraising Results, again with Susan Hoyles and Kate McLennan as the directors. 8 days after those new companies started appearing, Unions National, or Work Partners, went into liquidation. Within a very short time, the Benefits Team and Fundraising Results companies had signed up some of Work Partners' clients and were back working with the AEU and Child Fund Australia.
We interviewed them.
The workers, still out of pocket from the wreckage of Work Partners, were staggered that a union would sign with new companies that shared so much with the old.
The fact that they have re-signed knowing that all this money in superannuation is owing really doesn't say too much about the AEU.
As a union man, as somebody who actually believes in the union work, I would tell him to actually cut ties with the benefit team and don't deal with them.
The AEU says its new contract with Benefits Team and Fundraising Results has now ended, and it has no plans to enter into further contracts with those companies. The charity Child Fund has said it will sever its ties with the new companies if a connection is shown with Stuart McGill. And Susan Hoyles and Kate McLennan, the directors of the two new companies, Benefits Team Management and Fundraising Results, now insist all ties with Stuart McGill have been cut.
Tim Palmer with that report.